And it's so cool because they're jumping all around each other and, on the roof of the house fighting. And they fight up in the air like a Dragon Ball Z or something. Poof, poof, do a bunch of like these, like machine gun punches. And then at the end, it's like, good job. I've taught you my final ability, right? Yeah. And it's bum rush.
Bum rush. Bum rush. I know. And what's so funny about it is like, if you haven't gotten this ability yet, you should, because it's really powerful.
It's like, great.
Welcome back to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike.
My name is Kason.
And we are now in the world of ruin on Final Fantasy VI. One thing I want to mention before we get started here. The next poll and voting for the next game we're going to cover after Final Fantasy VI has gone live on Patreon and Subscribestar. I made a bit of a mistake this time. Usually this is reserved for $5 patrons and above. So if you contribute $5 or above, you get voting privileges.
Okay.
But I forgot to do that, so it's actually open to everybody on the Patreon for this time.
Cool.
So you could join the Patreon for $1 or whatever and have the chance to vote. The games that we're voting on are sequels to games we've already done that people have been really wanting us to get back to.
Yes.
So Xenosaga 2 is on there. Nier Automata is on there. Metal Gear Solid 2 is on there, and Mass Effect 2. So those are the 4 games that are currently being voted on. So if you enjoy what we're doing here on the podcast, you want to contribute, you want to be a part of what we're doing. Of course, we have people that join the show live at the $10 level. You can actually chat with us while we're doing it. Or if you want to vote on what we cover in the future, please go check out our Patreon page or Subscribestar if you'd rather. And you also get an extra podcast episode, one per month, where we cover obscure things during the course.
Shows.
Yeah, movies and
other
shows.
Games, shorter games.
Like when we were doing Silent Hill 2, Jacob's Ladder was brought up, right?
Yeah.
And we ended up watching that movie and doing a review for that and an analysis of that on Patreon. So you can go watch that now. It's live. Anyway, so just want to let people know that. And so now we can get into FF6. Right. Here we go. Yeah. Last time Kefka did a lot of a lot of people say destroyed the world. It's not quite that. There's still people. There's still towns.
Most of the towns are still around.
It's not
the people
utterly destroyed. Yeah. I guess that's not entirely evident at first when you're just on the solitary island with Celes and Cid. It may seem more like, I think everything.
Yes, you don't know
destroyed.
The extent.
Yeah, but there's still people. There's still towns. The continents have changed drastically.
Yeah.
One of my favorite details is that the Serpent's Trench, which was that thing that Gaw gave us the helmet for that we swam through, is now exposed. So you see almost like a serpent-like continent or strip of land.
Yeah.
That used to be that, and so everything has really changed.
That would be the low places have been made high, and the high places have been made low.
Yeah, that's right.
There was with Figaro. Hopefully, we'll get to that point.
Yeah.
There's water where there used to be a mountain range. And,
yes.
Some of that has happened.
Yes,
so
that's
very
true.
interesting.
The mountain and the Figaro Castle can still pass through the ocean.
Yes, I mean not a problem. Whatever helped them do it before, it's still
works.
Still works.
It's a piece of a castle. It's a submarine.
It is.
Anyways,
apparently it crashed.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Something. Okay.
So there's a lot that I want to try to get through today. I think we're going to spend most of our time in the very beginning part here in the solitary island. But we got really a lot farther than that. I think I put it into the pinned comment of the last episode, so go look there to see all the stuff that we played through. We mostly got through everything the same. He got 2 characters I didn't get. I got a character he didn't get. Kind of a thing. So there's a little
That'll
bit.
be common, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of, I guess, discrepancy between that. But for the most part, we did mostly the same content. So let's do it. Let's get started.
Okay.
So it opens up on the solitary island. This is where Celes kind of washed up in the aftermath of everything. And she has been in a coma for a year. And has been taken care of by Cid, who ended up there with her. There's just the 2 of them on this island by themselves.
And Cid is sick also. So he's not doing well, but he's taking care of Celes.
Right. And so she comes to kind of right as he's starting to take a turn for the worse.
Yeah.
And so he starts to become sick, and she starts
they kind of
taking
switch
care
places
of him. Yeah.
because there's only one bed, right?
There's only one
then
bed.
As soon as Celes gets out, he
Yeah.
lays down.
Right.
I guess he'd been sleeping on the floor this whole time, right?
I guess so. Or outside. I don't know.
Yeah, somewhere else.
But so she decides that she's going to... Well, I'll just read some of the dialogue here. Sid says, "You're finally awake." She says, "I feel like I've been sleeping forever." Sid says, "For 1 year, actually, I thought you were out for good." Celes says, "A whole year? You watched over me the whole time? That's a long time." It's also curious how she survived in a time before IVs and
for a year in a coma.
I know.
I mean, he must have been force feeding her somehow.
I have no idea.
Must have been doing something.
Is that possible? Anyone who knows medieval medicine, did they have ways of keeping people alive?
Yeah, because I know when you're in a coma and you're not moving, your brain activity is minimal to almost nothing.
Yes.
You don't expend a ton of energy, so you don't need a ton of food.
Yes.
But I would assume in a year you do need some stuff, water especially, and things like that.
Well, also, being in a coma for longer than even a few days it results in horrible brain damage.
Right, because your brain atrophies. It's just sitting there. It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
The electrical signals aren't. They're just not doing anything.
It's not that it's impossible to wake up and become a mostly functioning person again, but it's not likely that you will.
Yeah, it's hard.
Anyways, there's a lot of complications in modern medicine addresses that they would
wonder.
not have had in this game setting, but whatever.
Okay, now that being said, it is kind of important that a year has passed.
Yes.
This isn't the next day, right, where everyone's still freaking out. Like a year later, people have started to rebuild. People have come to terms with how things are now. People are kind of trying to make do in their new lives. If this were just the next day or even a few days later, the world would not be in the state that we currently find it in.
That's a good point.
I like the state that we currently find it in. And it would make sense if Celes had been awake for prior to this full year. However, they would have had to have showed us that or something or hinted at that.
Yeah, right.
And the way that it's presented, I think it's pretty forgivable.
Yeah. So, I agree with that. I think that they do a pretty good job of showing a world, again, not totally destroyed because people have had time to sort of adjust to the state that it's in now. So, like I said, there's still towns, there's still people.
Yep.
They're just kind of people without hope, and like things are kind of messed up. But they're finding a way to kind of survive, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, Celes asks, "Where are my friends? Where's Locke?" Sid says, "I don't know. I only know that we're here, and maybe we're the only people left alive." So he has no idea if anyone survived. Since that day, the world's continued to slide into ruin. Animals and plants are dying.
Yeah.
The few people who washed up here with us passed away of boredom and despair. I thought it was also interesting on this point about plants and animals are dying. In this little section on the island, before you complete it, you can leave the little screen where the house is at and go onto the world map and sort of like walk around on the island, and you can encounter monsters there.
That's right. Yeah.
For the most part in the world of Ruin, like the monsters are really different now. They're like way more monstrous, less animal-like. I guess
they're more poisonous.
Yeah,
and they do those status effects, and
well, like a lot of the monsters in the world of Balance or the world before this, they would be like wolves and birds and squirrels and things that look like sort of natural animals, right?
Not like straight demons.
Yeah, right. And now they're much more demonic in nature. But
the idea is that when Kefka destroyed the world, it unleashed these demons.
Yeah.
You kind of encounter this a little bit in some of the enemies that we fight. It's like this was a demon that arose while Kefka was destroying the world. Like, it's almost as if the warring triad had kind of sealed away through the power of a triangle, had sealed. This is like the Triforce or something. They had sealed away these demons deep into the earth. And not only did the earth just break when they got moved, but the demons that were sealed away have re-entered the world. Right. And we end up encountering a bunch of them.
So, for the most part, in the other continents outside of this island, that's the type of enemy you'll find. Yeah. But here, you find it's kind of like a squirrel-like enemy, one of the ones that would look more natural from the world before. But they automatically have like a status effect that drains their HP. So they will just like die.
They just already
battle.
have it.
And if they try to cast, I think it's like White Wind or some sort of healing spell, it'll say like not enough MP, which would indicate that possibly they're just out of energy entirely, right? They're dying. The animals are dying.
Yeah,
everything's dying out. So I really liked that touch. Really I thought it was a really nice way to sort of show like it's not just the people that have been affected; it's animals and life in general all around the world. So it's kind of a nice integration of gameplay there, sort of, supplementing the story. So Celes then says to him, "My friends, they're probably all gone." Sid says, "Celes, you're the closest thing I have to family. We could just live out our lives here peacefully." And Celes says, "I suppose so, Sid, or should I say Granddad? May I call you that?"
Yeah, she calls him Granddad. That's so interesting.
And he's like, "Gramps, I'm overwhelmed. All of a sudden I have a granddaughter." And that's when he starts coughing.
Very touching.
Yeah. So they have this kind of moment where they bond, we're the last two people surviving, you can be like my grandfather figure, and you can be my daughter figure, and we'll just, try to do our best to like live out our lives or whatever.
There is a sense in that maybe one step removed, which is why Sid is more of a grandfather than a father, but there is a sense that Sid is one step removed from making her basically who she is because of the factory experiments and all that.
Right.
So it's like she isn't the father, but she did have a hand in making her, even biologically, to the point of how she is now. There is some like connection there where it's like, even though Sid maybe didn't have the best intentions when he was infusing her with, Magitech and whatnot, he did make her who she is, and she can use it to be better because of it.
Yeah.
And so there is a kind of a familial bond there.
Yeah. And I'm sure they had a relationship of sorts, maybe not close, but like something like I don't know, maybe he raised her kind of in the labs
to some degree, I'm sure.
Whatever. Yeah. To whatever degree that was.
This reminds me a little bit of Stranger Things with Elle and then the Papa. The other guy that's with her, except maybe Sid is a little bit better of a person. But it's a similar kind of situation, And it's like you do develop a familial bond with people like that.
Yeah, for sure. So anyways, he's getting sick. He's hacking and coughing. "Are you hungry? I haven't eaten 3 days or so," he says, "ever since I became ill." "So what would you like?" And he said, "Well, unless I ask for fish, I'm not going to get anything because that's all there is here."
So I guess fish.
Yeah. So she goes to catch some.
And I love it. You just go and the fish are just there on the shore.
Yeah.
You don't have to do much.
And so there's two ways that this scene can play out depending on how you proceed. There are fish that swim at different speeds in the water. The fast swimming fish, the fastest I should say, are like the healthiest.
Oh, sure.
So if you feed those fish to Sid.
I had to feed him like 10 fish. I had to feed him a lot. And I was like, come on, do something. I can't leave.
So did you, in your playthrough, did Sid survive? He lives?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you got the ending where he lives and
fed him a lot of fish. I actually didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So how would the scenario go where he does not live?
If he does not live, there's a whole scene where, well, you can either not feed him at all.
Oh, okay.
So you would just leave the building,
so just go find the
and
raft.
go back inside the house again, and he gets back in bed, and you just keep going in and out, and it's like the days are passing without fish. So that's one way. Or if you're only feeding him the poor quality fish, he would die.
Then he might have been close to dying because I had to feed him like at least 10 fish. It took a while.
Yeah. So the idea
maybe not
is
10, maybe like 5 or 6.
There's really slow swimming fish that are like the poorest, and then there's like a medium, and then there's like a fast. And you got to feed him like the faster ones, and he heals up and gets healthy again.
Gotcha.
And then in so doing, he'll say, "Okay, I was building this raft," and he takes her down there and like shows it, and then she gets on and takes off into the world. Right.
Well, hold off. That's fascinating because I actually didn't know the connection. I did notice that there were some fish that were faster and not, but I just got whatever fish I could. I didn't know there was a difference. But it makes sense that the slower swimming fish are the ones that maybe are infected with some malady, just like those squirrels.
Yes.
Where it's like they aren't like. Just think of like Chernobyl or something, right? Like the animals, that just can't survive very long there, in certain ways. But then the ones that are faster are the ones that maybe came from deeper in the ocean or somewhere else, or they aren't infected with whatever this stuff has. So when you eat it, you're not getting the poison of the animal. Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, I kind of like that. There's, I think, a much better scene that plays when he doesn't live. He actually dies. So she becomes, she falls into a state of such despair, feeling like she's the only person left in the world, that she goes to the cliffside in the north side of the islands.
I didn't see that.
And it's actually,
I'm aware of this scene, but I did not see it.
It's actually freaking crazy. Some people have pointed this out, and there's a great video that was done on this that I think Dude McGuy shared a few weeks back. I can't remember the name of it right now. If someone could pull it up, because I would love to call out the channel and send people in that direction. Because he made this point, and I really liked it in the video. But basically, they're sort of a mirror here between the opera scene where she throws the flowers.
Yes, and throwing herself.
And she talks about not losing hope or whatever, right? And then in this moment, being in just an absolute pit of despair, decides to throw herself off the cliff. You get kind of a leitmotif of her theme.
Okay.
It's this video here, understanding why Final Fantasy VI worked by Corrupted Save. That is the name of the video and the YouTube channel. Everyone should go and check it out. I thought it was really well done. But he makes this point about how it's sort of a reflection of that scene, but sort of turned on its head in this world of ruined state.
That makes sense.
And she tries to commit suicide.
Yeah.
They censor it.
She washes
heavily.
up. Yeah, of course.
in this version, but she's not successful in doing so.
Right.
And so she washes back up. There's like a bird there or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
the white bird.
They don't have the text here in the script, which is a shame, because I really should bring it up. Maybe they have it there.
It says, those others who were here, when they were feeling down, they'd take a leap of faith from the cliffs up north.
Right.
Perked them right up.
Yeah, so...
Definitely doesn't sound like suicide.
No, I mean, that's the censoring part of it. But, like, the subtext of that leap of faith, right?
I can tell you
what actually
a different translation here is even the few survivors on the island lost hope, one after another, and threw themselves off the cliff on the northern cape.
That's the real text, right? So, anyways, and I think there's actually a dead bird nearby that, and it's all sort of symbolically showing her hopelessness. She throws herself off the cliff. The shot is just incredible. Like, she's like descending almost in slow motion.
Slow motion, yeah.
And there's just these like sort of flashes that her tears that are just like floating off as she falls. There's like 4 or 5 of them that are gonna float off, and like the whole background just goes dark as she like falls. And again, reflecting on the theme of the game, the sort of ray of hope in hopelessness or in the utter darkness, right?
Yeah.
Celes survives this attempt at suicide. She washes back up and she sort of finds that again. And she goes back into the house and she finds out that Sid had been building this raft.
And that's where she finds the raft.
Now, here's another really interesting thing too. When you're going back and forth and catching fish for Sid, you'll come back and he'll sort of be on the left of the screen, sort of getting back into bed.
Yeah, like he's doing something.
Like he was doing something and getting back into bed. And then at a certain point, he'll become so sick that he no longer is getting up. He's just laying in the bed when you return. As he like slowly is dying. But the implication there being that when she would leave, he would use the last of his strength to get out of bed and go like finish this raft while she was gone. And then when she would come back, he'd run back up and get back in bed again. So, he sort of sacrificed the last of his energy to give her a ray of hope to get off the island and actually go see if anyone else survived, if there's anyone left in the world. So a lot of really cool details, extremely well executed. The music is just otherworldly good.
Very good, very good.
In this scene in particular, when she falls. It's absolutely incredible. So to me, the canon ending, or the canon scene, is Sid dying and her falling off the cliff. I think it just works way better in like the scheme of the story, but like mean, it's sometimes you don't want granddad to die, right? Like,
No, you don't.
but it certainly feels different, like thematically when he lives, and he's just, I just have this raft. Bye.
Man, this game gives you a little too much freedom sometimes.
Sure.
And you can miss a lot of really important stuff.
Yeah. So she finds the hope that she needs to go out and see what she can find. And first thing she finds, well, you can go to Albrook and stuff like that, but Sen, and I really like this because Sen is kind of on the north side of that continent, so you're kind of forced to pass Kefka's tower on the way.
Oh, yes, so you see it.
And
yeah.
I just sort of
Pretty cool.
saw like a scene, like cinematically in my mind, even though we've talked about how this game's not cinematic and all this stuff.
Right.
But I just saw this scene of like Celes alone just going across this barren wasteland, and all you see is like Kefka's tower, and like getting a sense of what you're up against after having just finally like kind of found some hope again, and being like, okay, that's the goal. Like that's what I have to like go up against. How am I going to figure this out? Like, let's go find a way, right? And so like she presses on towards Sen, and this is where she finds Sabin. Sabin is there, and there's a building, like a house that's collapsing, and he's like holding it up.
That was he's such a beast, man. He is such an absolute beast. It's so good. Before I went there, I was at Albrook, right?
Yeah.
And then the people are talking about Kefka's tower all the time. They're talking about the light of judgment, that when Kefka doesn't like what someone's doing, he doesn't just kill them, he kills their whole town. And he's like atop this tower where he sees
everything.
Right. And
he's like basically the Eye of Sauron.
This is the Tower of Sauron. And even as you mentioned, Celes walking across a barren wasteland with the tower next to him, knowing that it's hopeless, that evokes some Lord of the Rings kind of stuff there as well. Yeah. And then you also hear of a cult of Kefka, right?
Cult of Kefka.
And then you walk around to this place, and there is something of, because the screen kind of flashes, right? And you get something of whatever this judgment, this light of judgment is that happens. And that's when the house is about to break. And Sabin just shows up, and he becomes one of the pillars, and he's such a beast. I love it.
Yep.
And so then you've got to go in and save the people that are there. And then as you come out, the whole house just like
collapses.
And you talk to Sabin, and it's just like, whoa, not only are people here, but somebody I know is here. And I love the way that you're introduced to him, because if you don't recognize the sprite right away, because there's like 4 or 5 other people on the screen at the time, you don't realize that it's Sabin, right?
Yeah.
And then, I know I pronounce his name all kinds of ways in the same paragraph, doesn't matter.
Me too.
But then she says Sabin, and it's like, wait, what? That is him. Holy cow. Like, it just happens all at once. And the way that we encounter characters from this point on in the game, and how just almost mundane or normal it is, and how they're just in regular places. You can easily miss them, right? You just have to go and look everywhere, because they could be just sitting in a cafe, in a bar, or they can be all over the world in all different places doing all kinds of different things. And in this case, Sabin is just he's just there. And it's just like, whoa, what are the odds?
Yeah.
Very cool. I love it.
Yeah. It's awesome. And so there's kind of an interesting behind the scenes story here. They had a plan while they were developing this, or maybe in an earlier build of the game, where that time, because you have like a time limit to like get inside and like save the little girl
when he's holding up the house,
get her out while he's holding it up before his strength gives out. They had a scene planned where if you didn't get out in time, it would be a permanent death for Sabin. So like Sabin would stay, and then he'd get crushed in the rubble and would be killed. And then like Edgar would come back later and have this like horrible grief-ridden moment of like digging through the rubble trying to like find the remains of his brother and be like, I'll save you. And I was reading that going like, okay, like this game can get pretty heavy. Like we just had like a really heavy scene with an attempted suicide by Celes, right? But like that's probably a little too far for Final Fantasy.
They held back quite a bit. And that's so funny, because there is so much seriousness within this game.
Yeah.
I also feel like when a lot of the serious things happen, they often feel the need to then lighten it up at some point, right? There needs to be some brevity. There needs to be, and you can only do that so many times, just playing with people's emotions, you know?
Yeah.
And if something really intense has to have something really funny. A lot of the comments on our last episode we put up were people saying, hey, you're helping me realize how funny this game is, and that section of the game is the funniest section of the game.
Yes.
Because you've got all sorts of good stuff with Ultros, and also with, anyways, really good stuff. But it's also the like the last episode. That's where the world broke, right?
Yep.
Right? You need to balance things out properly. Yep. And if you're going to have a scene that's that heavy, but you don't have anything to balance it out, you I don't know. You may not want to put it into the game.
Right. Well, and Final Fantasy kind of had this balance during sort of its, I don't know, like its peak years of popularity, I guess, where there always was that balance. Sometimes it's kind of hard to remember that. I think that like people remember, say, Final Fantasy VII as being this game that has this
deep, meaningful.
Yeah,
you don't find as much meaning in the comedy,
sure,
right? But it's there. It's all over.
I every time I replay Final Fantasy VII, it's not like surprising because I know the game so well, but it's like I think people easily forget how filled with comedic moments it is. It's all the time.
The silliness.
All the freaking time. It's just so, I mean, we did Final Fantasy VIII. We did a podcast on that. Yes. Game's hilarious.
Yes, very funny. Yes. And like, often lighthearted moments in very, what would you call it? Trying times.
Interesting times. Yeah.
Yes.
But like they were genuinely very, very funny. And this game is no different. Final Fantasy V is very much that way. And so they're filled with humor all the time. And I think they get this they gained this sort of reputation as these games attempting like a high level of dramatic gravitas. And like it was.
Yes, sure.
But like that wasn't like all it was trying to do. And it was very balanced. And this game has a lot more comedic moments, I think, than a lot of people remember similarly. So, but in this world of Ruin, there's less of that. And so
there is
going that heavy, I agree with you, probably would have just like been so depressing that it might have like sort of gone one step too far in that.
I wouldn't have put it past him though. Because I mean there could be all sorts of characters where it's like, oh really, they let that happen?
Yeah.
But that's just kind of, I don't know. So maybe they could have pulled it off.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But they ended up cutting that. So I think you just get a game over. I can't remember. It's been forever. I don't even know if I have ever failed this thing. But you get back out. Sabin decides to come with you. You convince him we got to still go after Kefka or whatever.
Yeah, it takes no time at all. I love it.
No time.
A lot of these characters, they really don't have the will to continue. It's been a year, right? Like they're kind of getting used to things and they're just like, well, I can't make a difference. I tried once. We failed horribly. Some of this stuff happened because of them, right? Like without Terra going and contacting the Espers, Kefka likely never would have actually accessed the Warring Triad, which is like, okay, you guys really screwed up the world, right?
Yeah.
So there's some sense to like, even if you want to do it, if you don't know what to do, you're just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
Right. And that's been happening this whole time. And a lot of the characters have a really hard time being convinced to come follow us. But Sabin is like so quick. He's not exactly like the deepest thinker, right?
Yeah.
He's just kind of, he goes with what he feels in the moment. And when Celeste is like, let's save the world, he just gets it back immediately. He's just like, yeah, let's do it. You know, he's not asking questions. He just, even though it didn't work last time, but it'll definitely work this time. So who cares?
Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah. They say in sports, I know that, what's his name? So Sabin is a bit of a, I called him a meathead in one episode.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
He's a bit of a jock type, typical character. And there's this idea in sports of purposefully having a short-term memory. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like if you're playing football and you throw an interception, it's going to affect you the whole game. You're going to be thinking, I shouldn't have done that. But it's like if you just forget that and if you just force yourself to have a short-term memory so that you can go back out and do it all again. Sabin exemplifies that really well, where it's like, what? Oh, so what, man? It'll work this time for sure. And you're like, he's 100% on board. I love it.
Yeah.
He is my favorite character this playthrough.
Yeah,
so good.
I've liked him a lot this time too. So the next town I went to was Mobliz, or Mobliz, however you're supposed to pronounce that. This is where Terra's at. We're going to skip over this for now because...
It got jacked, though.
Yeah.
That whole city got really jacked.
Yeah, like really messed up.
Yeah.
We're going to skip this for now because I came here once, then returned and recruited Terra.
Yeah,
I came here. Come back.
I have not come back yet.
So we're going to do that whole story together.
Perfect. That'll be good.
So let's just skip ahead to Nicaea and South Vigaro. This is where you get to Gerad.
This is so good. I love these characters, man. I love.
So Gerad is just like of course, reorganizing the letters of Edgar's name, right? So it's Edgar's sprite, but he's got like a disguise. So he's wearing different colored
darker clothes. Yeah,
he's wearing, I would guess, maybe some either color in his hair or a wig or something.
Yeah, it's like dark grayish. Yeah,
and of course, it's technically optional to have gotten Sabin at this point, so he doesn't say a lot.
He doesn't. I was surprised. That's one of my notes. Is like, how come Sabin's not like, hey brother?
Because the idea is he might not even be with you at this time. It might just be Celes or Celes and Terra or something like that. So they don't have him say a lot, but Celes knows it's Edgar. She recognizes. He keeps trying to play it off, but so let's see here. Gerad says, "What's your problem?" Celes says, "You're Edgar, aren't you?" and she's like, "Edgar," and he's like, "Enough of this nonsense. I have things to do."
He's like, "I've been Gerad my whole life."
I'll be busy getting ready for our departure to Figaro. She says, "Don't play possum with me, Edgar, or have you lost your memory?" "Listen, my lady, I've been Gerad my whole life."
Yeah.
Gerad or whatever. Only Edgar would say "my lady," she says.
That's right. It's like, what? Everyone says that. What are you talking about? Yeah. So
what's the bloom and fuss about? I love that. It gives me the sense he's trying to use like sort of a Cockney accent to like disguise himself.
Well, because he's
what's all the bloom and fuss
what's
about?
all the bloom? And he's with these group of thieves, right?
Yeah.
And these thieves are supposedly people who escaped from Figaro Castle.
Yes.
They were imprisoned in Figaro Castle, but Figaro seemed to have hit an obstacle under the sand.
Yeah.
Maybe something wasn't there before and they didn't know, and boom, the castle breaks down. And all these thieves are out and about, right?
Yeah.
And so Edgar is one of the thieves, basically. So, and he's it's really good. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But yeah, he's teaming up with them, and he speaks the way that they do, except for my lady, apparently.
Yeah, the words "my lady" are used all over the world. You know how to get to Figaro Castle, don't you? So, and the henchman's like, "Go ho, do we ever?" "Yeah, you lead the way since it's buried." He's trying to like convince her that he's not him. It's just so funny. Okay, so they like take off, right? And she kind of follows him. They go through like a cave. So they take a ship to the South Figaro region.
That's right. Yeah.
So from South Figaro, they go north to the cave that would have taken you over where the desert's at, right? By the way, we see Siegfried in this place. And this is a correction, actually, from last time. So I was like, wait, Siegfried? Is this Siegfried? Is Siegfried? There's actually two different characters. There's a Siegfried and a Siegfried.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that.
So we're going to learn.
Siegfried is very strong.
Yes.
Siegfried is a joke and hilarious.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about Siegfried probably in another episode. But there is an actual, like, legendary sword fighter, Siegfried. And Siegfried is like the sort of wannabe version of that guy, right? He's another guy who's trying to be like him, but like isn't.
He total failure.
Yeah, right.
By the way, there's a place in the town while we're at Nicaea. I think it's in Nicaea. No, maybe it's in South Figaro, actually. I can't remember exactly where. But there's a house that you go into and you talk to the people there. And there's somebody in like the bottom right corner. And you talk to them and they said something about jump on the turtle, jump on the turtle.
Oh, yes.
Never mind. Right. And I'm like, okay, that's hilarious. We don't know what they're doing. We don't see it. In Super Mario RPG, there's a person in a corner of a room who's like playing a Game Boy, you know, and just like, you know, doing whatever. But I don't know what this person was doing. My guess is that's a Mario reference. However, the way when you're in the cave and you're kind of following the thieves in, you know, you have to jump on a turtle to then go to the next side. Yep. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's not necessarily a Mario reference. I did initially think that it was a Mario reference.
Okay.
But I guess that was a thief who was like going over in their mind, like
what they're supposed to do,
running it over. Yeah. I guess so. That must be it.
Yeah. Okay, so you follow them over to Figaro Castle, pretty much. Yeah, good job. I used to have a turtle, says Gerad. And anyways, they get to Figaro Castle. You all right? You were almost a goner. Oh, because you're like in the engine room and things go like
there's
crazy.
There's a monster that's kind of like taking
like
over.
A tentacle monster that's like
it's gross.
Like all over the engine turbines or whatever. So
we all end up fighting it together.
Yeah, you end up joining it. He finally like gives up the charade And like
he's like, you're going to help me fight this thing or what?
Yeah, there's like a pincer attack. So like you're on this side, he's on that side.
Yes,
sort of fight this thing off.
That's right. But the thieves all went into a back room or something.
Yeah,
to go
there's a
find the
treasure room in the back.
Edgar's like, the treasure's worthless. It's nothing. And then they all hide when the thieves come out, and they're like, oh, well, there was a monster here. I guess it ate Edgar. So I guess, they don't even look for him. They just leave.
And they just leave. And he's like, all right, I can
Which is good for him, really.
Yeah. But there is a treasure in there that they didn't get. If you go up to the statue, there's a sword on it.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Like I forget what is it. It's like I can't remember what it is right
called?
now. It's
a scimitar, something like that.
Is it the enhancer? I don't think it's the enhancer, but it's some type of saber weapon.
The saber, that's
that you get.
Be.
So like, don't forget to get that. Not all the treasure has been taken, but let's see.
So, then we reunite with Edgar. He's down. He'll join us.
Yep.
We can go.
Why the stupid farce? Says Celes. Well, I heard that Figaro had an accident, and I wanted to help, but didn't know where to look. Then I heard that those idiots had escaped from the prison. Celes says you needed to use them. He says, bingo, I had to wait until they led me to their secret cave. She says, amazing, considering that you threw most of them in jail to begin with. Let's hide. And then they come out, boss, must have been eaten by that thing, right? Don't you want to get your treasure back? Edgar says it's completely worthless. Besides, Kefka's the one we need to worry about. Those guys haven't committed any serious crimes. Oh, come on, then let's go. So that's pretty much how you recruit Edgar. It's kind of a funny scenario. The next place you can go to is Kolingen.
Yeah, this is where you go underneath the water now, where there used to be a mountain range.
Yeah.
You go under the water, and then, you're able to go to Kolingen from there.
Yeah. So this is where Setzer's just chilling at the inn here.
Yeah, that was great, man.
Just
that
randomly there.
He's just
like,
chilling.
oh, Setzer, you're alive. And
he's
come
cool.
with us.
He'll talk to us, but he doesn't want to fight. He's saying like his hope, the energy to fight has been totally sapped from him. He has no interest anymore.
I'm just a gambler.
Yeah,
I just want to be
gambler.
left alone. The world is too chaotic for me. What's worse, I lost my wings because he doesn't have his airship anymore.
Right.
She's like, but before the world collapsed, you fought with all your heart. You were fearless. And he says, and that was then, but we'll never have that world back. I liked that line. We can never have that world back. It gives the sense of the permanence of this destruction.
Yeah.
Which is something that really makes this game unique, particularly at this point in the series history. It's like, it really does give the sense that they failed to save the world.
Right,
Like what they're doing now is just trying to carry on in the darkness, but really like most of the people of the world, most of the world is just totally destroyed.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to do the best they can at this point, but they failed. And I really we can't have that world back. So what's worth, why should we fight? What's the point if we can't get that world back? And that's what she's here to do. That's who Celes sort of represents in all this, is that, like we said, ray of hope when everything is hopeless. Not just seems hopeless, but literally is. Like, there doesn't really seem to be a point to it.
Yeah, it is impossible.
Carry on anyways.
Yeah, it is impossible to regain the lost world.
Yeah.
But it may be possible to create a new world. And that's what ultimately I think Setzer is able to see. Like, hey, man, we can't go back to the past, but we can make the future better than the present. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's what she says. She says, you want to live in this world as it is? No? Then do something about it.
There you go. I love that's all she says, and he's into it. But you know what's funny about Setzer, you have to remember, because he's like, oh, you've talked sense into me. I'm doing it now. I'm all in. But remember that Setzer was madly in love with Maria.
Yes.
And within seconds of meeting Celes, he's like, you're more attractive than Maria. Right? Like, I feel like Celes has a way with people in general, but with Setzer in particular, where she doesn't need to do much to convince him to do something.
Pull that hard.
She even cheats the coin flipping game. He can't find it in himself to even be mad at her. Like, he just, whatever she does, he respects her for it. And so that's just his character. That's who his character has been, how his character has been presented to us up to this point.
Yeah.
So when Celes says something like, come on, get your act together and let's go change the world, he's like, oh, he likes it when a woman talks to him like that. Like, he can't help it. He's just like, oh, you've got me. Let's go.
He kind of needs that, right?
Yeah.
He needs that sort of like woman in his life to like push him to push himself, I guess, to
Right.
to strive for something better.
Because like you said, he's just a gambler. If he were left to his own devices, he would just waste his life away doing nothing to less than nothing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when somebody's there to motivate him to do the work, like he's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So
So
he also hints too as we leave. He's like, I can't remember what the exact line is. I could probably bring it up, but he says something like, there might be hope for another airship.
yeah, he says, we're going to get us another one. Airship,
Yes.
that is.
Oh, so good.
So it's
'Cause
like there's
you just
another
hear
one.
about it, and once again, this whole section of the game is just like small glimmers of hope building on each other
Yep.
to become a bright,
Yeah.
just like light. And every little bit of info that you gather, each new character that you're able to convince to come back with you, it all just kind of slowly begins to come into shape, to take shape exactly how you're going to be able to do this, right? And like as soon as you just hear a line like that, there may be hope for another airship. And as the game player, it's just like, awesome, like so excited, I can't wait, and it won't happen for a while. But they've given you the little ray of hope that as the game player, you can go back into the airship. You can.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
And they play
things are
that
going to get
music
better.
That really embodies that sense. I can't remember the name of the track. Let me actually pull it up here real quick because I'd like to reference it specifically. Someone's going to tell me. Searching for Friends. That's the one. Thank you.
Searching for Friends.
That's that's the sense. What you just described, right, is embodied in this music.
In this song. Sure, yeah.
It's like it's slowly coming into shape.
Yeah.
Doesn't this become the world map music at some point? Am I totally
no, it
off
does.
on that?
But when you first start playing,
not.
You first see the open world, let's pause this.
Okay.
When you first get to the overworld with Celes, when you don't have anybody, you just hear the wind.
The wind, which we've been talking about.
This is so funny because I had a note here. I guess I just didn't say it or whatever. The wind is just blowing. That's all you hear, and that's kind of something along the lines of just like the hopelessness of the situation. You get up there, all you hear is wind. There isn't anything, right? There's nothing.
Yeah.
But as you slowly move to recruit more characters, the world, the map music does gradually change.
Yeah, to this Searching for Friends piece.
Which is a lot more hopeful.
Yeah. Well, I just, again, I feel like it came to my mind, like the music, the melody came to my mind as you were describing this idea of things are slowly a glimmer of hope upon a glimmer of hope.
Glimmer on
it's
glimmer.
Starting to kind of pick up and take shape.
Yes.
That's what
I love this whole section of the game.
In that music, that Searching for Friends music is like the perfect embodiment of that exact thing you described. And I just thought it was funny that music started playing like as a soundtrack underneath your freaking commentary, like as you were saying that.
I'll have to make sure the edit reflects that.
It's like a perfect freaking reflection of that idea, and that's just what Uematsu was so good at this time. Like, he just knew how to evoke the right emotion.
He did.
Yeah.
He was so good. I've got a couple notes here talking about this specifically. You really start feeling the hope, and the game starts to get really fun in the world of Ruin.
Yes.
Which is so funny.
Yes.
The game was fun before that, fine. But this part of the game is just so good, right? You know exactly what to do. You just have to go everywhere on the map and look high and low, and you just start feeling really adventurous, right? You're re-exploring everything. You're making connections.
Yep.
The impossible situation slowly seems to become more possible. And this part of the game is just amazing. The first half of the game is all a setup to get to know the characters for these moments, which are so much fun. We just go around spreading hope to a broken world. Everywhere we go, we strengthen others and build each other up, rescue people who are in despair, and renew a hope for the future.
Yeah.
And you just feel it too. In the music and the game, everything about it. You're just like, man, things are coming together and it's really looking up, which you may not have been expecting with the world of Ruin initially as is.
Sure.
You approach this world and it is desolate and void of hope. There's not much there. but it doesn't take long for that hope to just start blossoming, right? And then you just see it everywhere. Yeah. And it's really cool. I love
awesome. It's awesome. I love this section of the game. Like I said last time, where the original plan didn't intend to have a World of Ruin. They were just going to end the game on the Forbidden Continent.
Thought about that.
This game is not the same without this.
I wonder, it would have been as a good game on par with the ones that came before it had it ended at that point.
I don't think so.
It would not have been. No, I think it's a good game up to that point.
Yeah, it's good.
But it would not have surpassed it.
No.
It would not have surpassed 5 and 3 and 4 and the ones that came before it. Without this section of the game. This section of the game helps it to shine in a whole different way and helps you to really, really connect with these characters. Yeah. It's so good.
So we're getting a correction here from Dude Mackay. It's the airship music of the world.
So that's why the music
I'm associating
changes.
it with the world map, just because I'm flying around.
That makes sense. But that's it, though.
Yeah.
Once you get in that ship, it's like, boom, you got your power back.
Also, going back to like everything feeling hopeless, but then getting that ray of hope.
Yeah.
Like, we got an airship. The airship was destroyed. That's like my favorite part of these old school RPGs is having the airship. And it's like, now we have he just gave us another glimmer of hope that we can get an airship again. It's like, yes, finally fetching another airship.
So exciting.
The game's going to get good again.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah, that's basically kind of the next section is going to Daryl's tomb. Daryl was a friend of Setzer's. I'll call her a friend of his in the past who also had built an airship called the Falcon. And so you're going to the place, Daryl's tomb, to try and find that ship. Yeah. So that's where he takes you. Along the way, you can stop at the Colosseum. And this is another correction I want to make to last week's episode. Because I think I had said something like, this is the last time you see Ultros. He dies. He doesn't die. He becomes... He goes to work at the Coliseum.
Classic.
You go into the Coliseum, he's just there like working in the freaking... just working there. You can talk to him or whatever, but like it is the last time you fight him in the game, so you don't fight him again. But it's just hilarious that he just gets a job at the Coliseum.
He just gets a normal job.
That's what he does now.
That's great.
Just octopus dude working at the Coliseum. So... anyways, we'll skip over that because there's not a lot of story stuff there. But I did spend a lot of time in the Coliseum because there's a lot of good equipment you can get from there.
Nice.
A lot.
I have not yet actually even visited there yet.
So, a couple things to know about it if you're going to do that.
I will.
You have to, I don't like the Coliseum from purely like gameplay mechanics sense.
Oh, okay.
You have no control over your party when they fight. They act randomly. And everybody who watches this channel knows I hate anything that is done randomly.
Where you don't have control.
Where you don't have control over the outcome. So your characters will act randomly. So let's say, for instance, you had learned a lot of spells in the earlier part of the game with the character. Now there's way more options of things for them to do.
Oh, for the random,
where what you really want them to do is just please, I don't know, Edgar, use your Dragoon ability to jump. That's what I want you to do. But I'm going to sit here and cast like life on the enemy or like just some random spell, right? Just like waiting for them. It's just, I really don't like it. So I much prefer the way they did the arena battles in Final Fantasy VII, where they kept like hindering you every turn to make it hard and give it like a gimmick, but you still controlled the character that was in the battle. But anyway, neither here nor there. You have to bet an item. You have to it's not really betting though, because you lose it whether you win or lose the battle.
Oh, okay.
It's like an entry fee sort of.
Oh, sure.
So you have to give this item from your inventory and you have a possibility of winning this one instead. So there's lots of equipment that you want to give that you can get really good stuff and really good stuff. But it can be very hard. Because again, you can't control the actions of your characters, and some of these guys are really tough.
Okay.
I think you can even fight Siegfried in this Colosseum. Ooh. So there's, anyways, there's a lot of cool stuff there, but not a lot of story stuff to talk about. So we'll kind of skip over that.
Okay.
So you head over to Daryl's tomb. Daryl sleeps here.
It's a big tomb. With lots of underground passageways.
Setzer says this brings back a lot of memories. I like the shot here. again, there's just such like great abstract storytelling happening. So he's kind of like walking down. It's like a profile sort of sideways staircase going down, 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 and it's black. And so like there's almost a projection up above where it sort of like plays out the flashback. It's just really cool. We kind of talked about this earlier when they did the flashback for Sabin in the castle, where he went and sat in the chair, and then there was like that panning shot that just kind of comes down. So good. It's like you're almost going back through time, kind of a thing.
Yeah. And that's kind of what's happening here. As we go back into this tomb, we are going kind of backwards in time.
Yeah, it's really cool the way that they do it. So, so now he's seeing the memory. So Daryl is speaking. This experimental airship is probably a bit unstable. And he says, you can't be serious. What are you trying to prove? Watch your step. She says, if something should happen to me, the Falcon's yours. And he says, nonsense. I'll win the Falcon from you when I whip you in a race. You'd better clear out of the way. He's like, big talk, Buster, she says. There's nothing like flying. Come on, stop lagging back there. Okay, so I love that we got the scene with Sid, who said that the casino being in your ship makes your ship way slower.
That's right. And that's like the reason it's not fast enough.
It's the reason it's not faster.
Well, you know what's funny?
The Falcon.
That's his own, what would you even call that? What am I trying to say?
Ego.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's your own baggage that's holding yourself back from being the fastest or the best or whatever it is. It's the things that you have that won't let go of, that you won't sacrifice towards what you think is your highest good. It's like, well, you think that that's like the best thing in the world is to be fast. That's what you say. But your actions show a different story. Right. Your actions tell me that gambling and women are way more important to you. And because of that, you'll never get the thing that you say you want. But, you know.
Yeah, he's not willing to do what it takes to be the best.
Yes.
He can't give up the casino and the ship. And the Falcon, which we do get after this, doesn't have one.
Oh, there you go.
It doesn't have a casino inside of it, right? So and it's a faster airship. So they're racing and whatnot, kind of bantering back and forth. Come on, stop lagging back there. Or do you like chewing on my wake? He says, listen to you. Yeah. She's like, this time's for real. I'm going to break every record. I'll be known as the woman who flew closest to the stars. And he says, back before sunset, I'll be waiting for you on the hill. And then the wreck of the Falcon was found a full year later in a distant land. Right. And I love this shot, too. They have him kind of standing on a cliffside. Everything's got a like red sunset in the distance.
That shot is beautiful.
It's
the
amazing.
Background looks so good.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, they use it again later.
He says, I restored the craft and then put it to rest down here. So his friend, possibly girl he liked in the past, right, created or built the fastest airship. She was a little too reckless with it. She crashed and she died.
It's kind of like an Icarus story here.
Yeah, too close.
Like,
too close to the fire.
Now, in that story, it's too close to the sun.
To the sun, yeah.
But like she's trying to get to the stars, right? And it's the Falcon, which is Star Wars, right? So it's like she obviously all the Star Wars references abound here. But she went too high, I guess.
Yep.
And that was her downfall.
Yep. And so he says, I restored the craft and then laid it to rest down here. Edgar says, this is the Falcon? He says, I put it in storage. I couldn't bear to look at it, but now it may save us, the Falcon. Edgar says, I finally think we're going to pull this off. So again, we're starting to feel like maybe there's a chance.
Hope's picking up.
So you're telling me there's a chance. We can attack Kefka's tower from the air, says Celes. Edgar says, the Falcon's going to give us one last chance at that guy. But first we need to find our friends, says Setzer. Right, first things first. For once I feel hopeful. And so, this is probably around the first time you would hear that music, the searching for friends.
Oh, yeah. When you get in the airship.
Into the airship and start flying. So, good stuff. The next town. Oh, sorry. I almost skipped this. So they see a bird flying.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And Celes is like,
I
don't know why, but something tells me we have to follow that bird.
Something tells me there's something important about that, right?
Yeah.
She saw the bird on the beach when she washed up.
Yes.
They see it again now, and so just keep that in mind for later in the game. This bird, something important she feels about this bird.
Yeah, we're going to play tag with this bird for a while.
Okay, so I think Miranda and Zozo come next here. So Lola, this is the girl from earlier in the game who had been writing the letters back and forth with her boyfriend in Mobliz, I think.
Mobliz, yeah, something like that.
And we had kind of delivered those messages back and forth, so she's still here. Look, my boyfriend in Mobliz sent me all these flowers.
Tons
flowers
of flowers
everywhere.
But they're not like normal flowers. They're handmade.
They're made of silk.
Yeah, which is like, this takes a lot of care to make these things. And she has like 20 of them in her house. Tons of them. And she's just inundated with letters from her previous lover. You know?
And these are letters he has written to me. And they're all like, what? But wasn't Mobliz demolished by Kefka? I mean, if you had been there, you would have seen that already, right? And even had the kind of first scene where meeting Tara there, but we'll get back to that in a minute. Somebody else must have written these. Read the letter, yes or no. My beloved Lola, we're still busy trying to rebuild this town. If all goes well, I'll be able to come home to you soon. This handwriting, it looks like Cyan's, but where is he mailing them from? She says, could you please attach this reply to a carrier pigeon? So by doing that, you're going to then follow this bird to where it's carrying the letters and find Cyan there, right?
Cyan,
This is how you find him. So you do the favor. Thank you.
Zozo, right?
Yeah, so it takes you to Zozo. This is where the letters are being sent from. You kind of go through. There's a door.
There's
that was
the one guy that
before.
tells the truth.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to talk to him.
The one door that was rusted before we can go through there now takes you through a cave that gets you into the mountains. And then, you find Cyan at the top. Cyan, you're alive.
Oh, and it's that shot, too, where Cyan's at the top, where it shows the background.
Yeah.
Similar / possibly the same background as the one with Setzer
earlier.
Except the tint is different.
Yeah.
So for that one, it was like more of a sunset tint.
Right.
Because when people die, the sun sets. Welcome to art. But in this one, it's daytime, but I think the background's the same. You can see a seam in the middle where it's a mirrored image on both sides. But I think it's the same image. It's just a different color.
Right.
So this one's more of like a bluish hue. Yeah, but Cyan is just kind of standing up there. Looks like a beast. It's really cool. It's such a cool shot.
Cyan's awesome. Cyan's great.
He is a beast. It's until we tell him that he notices we're there until he starts to realize that we may have read his letters, and he freaks out and he becomes a little like
tries to hide
just
all
so
the
funny.
flowers.
He grabs them all. It's hilarious. Like, dude, we already saw it. That's where we came from.
Yeah, right.
It's so funny. He's so embarrassed because it's not gentlemanly to behave in that manner.
Right.
Yeah, I love his character.
So I shall go with you. I shan't leave the world as it is. But how did you find me? Wait. Don't tell me you read the letters and runs in there.
That's when he freaks out.
These they're he was merely a diversion of mine.
He was like reciting poetry before that, though. He's like, the world before the fall. Delightful is the light of dawn. Noble is the heart of man. And it's so funny because he's just being such a beast in every sense until he finds out we read his letters. And then
he gets all embarrassed.
So embarrassed. I love it.
Yeah. They tell him, like, these flowers are gorgeous. This is an outrage.
This is
seriously? I learned of that poor girl when I passed through Miranda. When I heard that she sent a letter each day but never received any replies, something inside me snapped. As I wrote to that girl, I realized I was very much like her. I was looking behind, full of despair. My eyes were closed, and then something changed. I bumped into Sir Gaw in Miranda.
Yeah, that's right.
He said he had to become stronger if he was to face Kefka.
Yes, of course, sure.
Gaw is like, okay, I'm gonna kill Kefka. I gotta get stronger. So I'm going back to the Veld
just
to learn
go
more.
Run with monsters.
Learn more monster abilities. Right.
That's great.
He probably returned to the Veld. So so you go back to the Veld. This was the last character that I had recruited at this point, but I mean, there's not really much to this. You just go to the Veld, you run around until you get a battle where he returns, and he acts like nothing
to only
happened.
Have 3. I know. It's hilarious.
Yes, you have to have 3 in the
only
party,
3,
not 4.
And that's a mistake that's easy to make. But there's some people in the Veld. If you go into a cave, there's like a group of 4 people,
and they'll tell you.
And it's kind of cryptic. They're like, hey. That guy shows up, but never when all of us are present. Right? And there's 4 of them, right? And it's like, okay. Yeah. If you keep talking to them, I think they do eventually tell you, hey, drop a party member. If you're not saying Gao, drop a party member.
Yeah.
But initially, it's like kind of cryptic.
Sure you understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. About Cyan and his, this is great because some of what happens here, some of him writing letters to Lola, which is not at all in character for Cyan, makes a lot more sense once you go back to Doma Castle and once you see kind of his past a little bit.
Right.
In fact, a lot of this makes more sense. You know, he really does keep his emotions bottled up on purpose, right? And you know, he feels these emotions. He just doesn't express them very well.
You went back to Doma Castle with him in the party.
Yes.
See, that's funny. I didn't do that. I went there before he was back in. I recruited treasure, or I grabbed treasure and stuff.
You got to go back now.
Okay, I'm going to do that.
It's a big deal.
Okay.
And then, but what's so funny is that he's like, oh, you know, let go of the past and move forward. And he found a way to write these letters. The trouble is, what he was doing was causing this girl to now hold on to her past, which cannot be manifest and which is gone. And so, you know, by virtue of him discovering, you know, this new meaning in his life, it came at the expense of this woman being able to move forward herself. So he writes this final letter that's like, hey, sorry, I'm not, your boyfriend died like forever ago.
Right.
He's gone. But don't let this ruin you. You know, use this to become better and to move forward and all that.
Kind of reminds me of that side quest in Nier, right? Where's that? There's that like woman in the beach town, and like they were writing the letter to tell her that her love was still out there in the world somewhere.
Yeah,
and you had to like decide whether you're going to tell her the truth or not at the end of it. Kind of a similar thing that he's doing here.
That's right.
That's interesting. Okay, so Jadur would come next, which was where you would get Realm and Strago. I have not done that section yet.
Okay.
Also, Shadow is in the cave that you go on your way to Jadur, I think. Well, no, because you would fly there. Anyway, there's a cave on the Veldt. No, that's where it is. It's in the cave on the Veldt.
Oh, okay.
You go in there, and I think you go through that, and Shadow's there. So I haven't done that quite yet either. I stopped right before that.
Okay.
And you haven't gotten Terra yet.
Nope.
So I think we're going to have to stop here.
Okay. I've got
it's a little earlier than usual.
Have you met Duncan again yet?
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about
that. Was
Duncan.
Great.
Okay.
So you go to that house, and Sabin shows up, and I guess Sabin hasn't seen Duncan in a very long time, right?
Yes.
But it's at least been a year
to be
since
dead.
The whole thing broke. That's right.
Yeah.
So he for him, it's been even longer.
Well,
right?
I think when you go back to South Figaro, his widow is there, and
That's
you can
right.
go talk to her, and she'll just tell you like, he's still alive. It was a ruse or whatever. So like, she tells you where you can find him. Basically, it's like up in the north where Narsh used to be. In like a.
Did you visit Narsh, by the way? There's not really much
not
there.
much.
Although in the caves you can find Mog. So
I haven't done that part yet.
Oh, okay.
I haven't gotten Mog yet.
But when we go up to see Duncan, it's hilarious because he's like, okay, we're just like, happy greetings, everything's great, oh, wonderful, and then Duncan brings up like, so should we spar? Like, should we fight again, just like old times? And Sabin's like, oh, sure. And they just start fighting, right?
Yep.
They just go at it.
Yep.
And it's so cool because they're jumping all around each other and, on the roof of the house fighting. And they fight up in the air like a Dragon Ball Z or something.
Yep.
Do a bunch of like these, like machine gun punches. And then at the end, it's like, good job. I've taught you my final ability, right? And it's bum rush.
Bum rush. I know. And what's so funny about it is like, if you haven't gotten this ability yet, you should, because it's really powerful.
It's like, great. It's great.
If you equip like, anyway, I think it's like Holy Elemental, if I'm not mistaken. So if you equip earrings which boosts your magical power on Sabin, and you use this blitz, you can be doing upwards to like 9,000 damage
nice.
on an attack with this like right now in the game, so he becomes really strong at this point. You should definitely go get this ability.
Yes, get this.
But the fact that it's named Bum Rush is kind of funny.
It's just questionable. I don't know.
It's just funny. It's just funny that like the ultimate freaking ability, like the ultimate martial arts move is called Bum Rush.
It's so good. And the way he learns it, too. They just fight each other, and then eventually it's like, oh, you've learned it now.
Yeah, right.
Congrats, you can do the move.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Good stuff.
Oh, I love this game, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, because there was some stuff I did, he didn't do, stuff you did, I didn't do, we'll leave off there. But there's a part of me that wants to just, like, finish the game, and then we'll probably split it into 2 episodes.
That's all
I don't think we'll be able to get through everything next time.
Okay.
But I do want to just, like, take everything off the table
so that
and
we
be
can
able to just
tell
talk about
everybody.
it.
Okay.
So,
well, everybody,
if you can,
finish the game.
Try to just beat the game, but for next time. We won't talk about everything probably because we won't have enough time to do that. But I think that we'll be able to wrap this up in 2 more episodes, and there'll be a lot to talk about. I know for sure there's gonna be a lot to talk about in the final one when the final battle with Kefka. There's a lot of great stuff there. So, in any case, well, by the time this goes live, you will have already seen it. But we have a surprise recording we're about to do right now. Something very special.
Although by the time this goes up, you will have already seen it. You have
already seen it by then. But anyways.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you again next week. Peace out.